yoga, holotropic breath work, which means Stanislav Grof, the birth experience, personal growth, anorexia, tantric Buddhism. These are just some of the things that I spoke to Barbara Hu about last week. We met a couple of years ago on a yoga course I was teaching online. She is a yoga teacher in her own right, and she's very experienced. I think that there's a lot to learn from her. So take a look at the video, and if you do like it, please let me know. See you again soon. Bye for now. Hello, Barbara. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know that you're on holiday, so an even bigger thank you.
Hi, thank you for having this chance to meet.
No, it's a pleasure for me. There's so many things that we could actually talk about. Like, I'd really like to discuss your actual yoga journey, how you sort of went into depression and anorexia. Just touch on that. That's quite interesting for me. And then also your studies, your Jungian studies, your studies with Stanislav Grof. So of course also the holotropic breathing, maybe psychedelics if that's what you were involved in, and also a few other things that he speaks about, whether it is his take on Kashmiri Shaivism, perhaps. That would be nice. And then we'll just see what else comes up.
Okay.
So maybe we could just start with how you got involved in yoga at a very early age.
Yeah. Well, my story. Let's make the long story short. That when I was growing up, I was facing some difficulties in my personal life, which have to do with my family, with the environment I was growing in. So I was always wondering why these things happen to me. I was trying to understand my suffering and the suffering of other people around me. So there was this urge since my childhood to understand why. Why do we suffer emotionally, physically? Why do we suffer? So it was maybe by case, maybe not. But when I was, I think, 13 or 14 years old, I encountered the big world of yoga literature. So my first encounter with yoga was through books. I started at that age, at the age of 14, to read Upanishads and sacred text of India and the travel books. And this world somehow amazed me. And at that time, it gave me responses, the answers to what I was questioning. Why are we here suffering in this world? So my first encounter was theoretical. I was reading a lot. And the responses, the answers I got at that time were those I wanted to receive. I was pretty suffering depression, as you mentioned, at that age, because I didn't know how to deal with all the emotions of the other people around me, with my emotions. Let's say my body was at the time full of those energies I couldn't handle. So what I did was that I didn't eat anything. I was suffering mental anorexia. I was depressed, and the text I was reading at that time were this classical Brahmanic teachings saying, oh, this world, is full of suffering. You have to transcend. You have to go beyond your body, beyond the emotions, because everything just passes, and it's better to do some ascetic work with yourself, to transcend what you're feeling. So it was the exact answer I wanted to receive. And my understanding of the teachings at that time was very superficial and was naturally immature, because myself, I was really immature. So that was my first encounter with yoga. So I was reading a lot. Then I tried to find where this big philosophy finds the practical. So again, by accident, I encountered two teachers of physical yoga. First, it was the Ashtanga Vinyasa here in Czech, and then Hatha Yoga. So I slowly stepped into the physical practice, which paradoxically helped me at the time because it gave me the discipline, and it forced me to see how I process all these inner and outer things happening inside and around me, within my body, within my energy. So yeah, that was my first encounter with yoga.
I think it's interesting that you started to seek something from the suffering that you had in your environment. And I relate to that because the same thing happened to me. The difference is that I went in the opposite direction and I went to bulimia.
Okay.
And so then I was thinking about that and I was thinking both are sort of like a way to try and take control of a situation that we had no control over, you know, the environment, etc. Maybe we know now that the best way to control something is to actually relinquish control. But also the other thing I wanted to say was that I think it's that suffering that pushes someone to seek more. Because if everything is okay, you sort of like, there's nothing, you're okay, you just stay where you are.
It's kind of Buddha archetype, right? Because when you live in the palace, you have everything, and you don't go beyond the wall. You don't see beyond your, let's say, borders of your life and securities. You really don't need to ask for anything, to question the reality, to ask why there is a suffering. So I think maybe this urge to know, to understand why, what's beyond, it's somehow innate, it's within us. So just in specific contexts where we meet the suffering of some kind, we start then to reveal it, to be in contact with it.
Well, I mean, you were lucky to actually come across the yogic texts.
Sure.
Maybe it was a bit too early, but still, I mean, we know that there is this transformation process or using the suffering to sort of like transform it into the diamond.
Yeah.
You know, that's rubbing, yeah.
When I said I didn't understand the meanings or the real treasure within the text, it is true. But on the other hand, there was this maybe, how to say, kind of knowing that there is something really inside the text which will help me someday, which is really important to understand, to explore, to seek. I was pretty sure there's something, and I knew at that very moment when I first opened the Upanishads that I will not put the book out soon, that it will somehow grow with me. I was this feeling sure about this specific thing was huge for me. I remember it vividly, that there was this moment, yoga, this is the thing for my life.
And so then you started with Ashtanga yoga first in Czech, and then your yoga journey sort of progressed, and you met some interesting teachers.
Yeah. The situation we are talking about is 20 years something back.
Yeah.
Already. The time flies, although they say it's relative. But the situation here in Czech was different than it is now. The yoga was here, but it was more, the weirdos kind of thing. So it wasn't so popular as now. So we met my teachers in the schools, in the halls of the elementary schools, and it wasn't fancy as it is now with all the yoga world we can see now. So it was kind of poetic at those times to meet with strange people with a backpack, looking at each other and doing some strange things, some strange asanas, and then coming back. And it was nice time at that time.
Yeah, it was also a time where you came across it by chance,
Yeah,
in
sure.
a way. It was always chance meeting or a chance book in the library, in those days, the library, yeah? So now it's more a case of, it can be the case of keeping up with the Joneses, we say. Like, oh, well, my neighbor's doing it, so I should maybe do it.
Yeah.
And, you were talking earlier when we were discussing this before that obviously social media has a good impact on changing the world view, let's say, globally, but also the dangers behind this. So maybe, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your view on that.
Yeah, well, we have to embrace the paradox, I would say, because it is good on one hand that the panorama view is growing. It's broader. We can see many things today. Every second person knows something about Kundalini, about chakras, about what is ashram, and that is good. That the common sense, let's say, is growing, but at the same time, when you extend too much everything, it becomes easily more superficial. So I think this is the paradox of this time that we have the access. It's easily to access anything. You can imagine, you can download your sacred text written or translated in your language quite easily. You can go to India quite easily. Every second person now goes to ashram for some times and doing the trip from Rishikesh to Haridwar and coming back with their yogic name and mala and practice. And it's good. I'm not criticizing it. I think it's good. But the consumerism, this part of consuming what we can access, what we get easily, it's also showing the shadow of this beautiful potentiality we have today.
That actually, it reminds me that, some medieval texts in India, poems like Kabir Das, for example, he talks about that even then, you might be wearing an orange robe, but it doesn't mean anything to me. And so it's like we're still having the same issues, perhaps even more so now, or maybe not, I don't know. But there is that dilution. And I think the problem perhaps is to think that one, as you said to me earlier, is having Kundalini rising when actually it's not.
Yeah, sure.
It's just a term for something that the term has been heard, and one thinks that this is what it is when it's actually nothing to do with it. And then, of course, you have the dark side that comes out of such things. But then, Tantra, the number one thing about Tantra is that it's a practical science, So I think it's good for people to know that you have to do the work, and cause equals effect. So whatever you put in, you get out. And that universal law is universal. It goes with everything. And I agree. I think it's great that people know more about that world. And I think it's amazing that probably karma, the word karma, is in the dictionary now, the Oxford English Dictionary. I don't know, but I'm assuming that it is. So who knows, it's the beginning of a new awakening.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
what works for me and what I try to teach to my yoga students is that in these times where the panorama is broadening, it's becoming bigger, we can easily meet many things, interesting things, but at the same time we have to keep our own pace in growing to be able to receive the what's in those beautiful things we meet. What I try to teach is the relationship between principle, function, and context. That's very important for me, and I think it helps in this period where it's easy to be confused. If you have in mind the Buddhist wheel of karma or samsara, there is near the center, near the very center, there are three animals chasing each other, and one of those animals who represent three poisons. How do we, or simply said, how do we lose ourselves in the samsara? One of those animals represents ignorance and confusion. So it's easy. It's very easy to get confused in this broad, multi-layered, colored world of possibilities. Also in yoga, but the relationship in between a principle, function, and context for me somehow helps to maybe also get time to understand and to grow to understanding or the farther understanding of what we practice, what we try to understand, what we try to share together. So yeah, principle, function, and context, it's helpful.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's also, everyone has a different cleaning up job to do.
Sure.
So it's good to not worry about what the other person is doing.
Sure.
I think that's also important. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your. Also, I'd like to talk about your book. But first, let's talk a little bit about your studies with Stanislav Grof. What's really interesting, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just, watching a couple of Stanislav Grof's videos." And she goes, "Oh my God, I met him. He came to my house." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
She goes, "Yeah, Fritjof Capra." In the 80s, they used to frequent her house when her mother was having these soirees. And I was like, that I'm going to have to pursue and find out more about that. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your encounter with him.
But a good company having Fritjof Capra and Stanislav Grof at your house.
For sure, for
What a
sure.
party.
Separately, apparently.
Okay.
Separately.
Well, my meeting with Stanislav Grof's paradigm, I would say, happened, I think, later when I was studying university. Again, because the first stages of my self-inquiry process, my approach was very intellectual, theoretical, because I'm more the jnani that the, that's it. But well, I read a couple of his books. He is an excellent author, and somehow I met in his books. Let's say the good frame for what I was experiencing in my yogic practices, within my meditations, and I found there also a good answers to my critical self. Why are those things happening to me in specific stage of my life? So the first encounter was with his books, and then in 2017, I think it was, in Prague, there was held an international event named Transpersonal Conference with many speakers there, and Stanislav Grof was the main guest. And he led there a huge session of holotropic breathwork, which I was attending, and yeah, it was huge. The experience with the experiential layer of his teachings and philosophy and paradigm and his persona, and it had a huge impact on myself, because not only because of the session, which was pretty interesting, because many think healings and many understandings also happened there for me, but you named Kashmiri Shaivism. There is this teaching about sounds and vibrations and how they do affect themselves in the space, in the environment. So meeting a person with strong vibrations or tune of the reality, you need to tune yourself to it, always does something meaningful. So I would say that the meeting in 2017 was, for me, kind of kickoff into the transpersonal exploration. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because there's holotropic breathing, there's the psychedelics, his map of the different states. So I would like to hear a little bit more about what you can tell me about that.
Well, the holotropic breathwork has nothing to do with psychedelics. Stanislav Grof and his first wife Christina developed this method after the psychedelic ban in the US, because at first stage, Grof as a psychiatrist, clinical psychiatrist, experimented a lot with LSD. Then, there was this wave, this era of psychedelic fever,
Yeah.
where the LSD was practically thrown in the crowd, so it was kind of problematic. And then the extreme response came, so the clinical experiments with psychedelics were banned. And Stanislav Grof and his wife, who was a great yoga practitioner, developed this simple method, which is nothing new in the universe. It's a combination of extended breathing, faster and more deep breathing than you usually do, some body work, some music background, which the rhythm influences the consciousness and the energy within the body. So this simple method gave to many people the access to experience the what's beyond the normal way we perceive the reality. We perceive our psyche, we perceive our body, we perceive our energy.
So like shamanic journeying, for example.
Yeah, there is a lot of common with the shamanic techniques, also with the yogic and tantric techniques or meditations. There are many things similar. But what Stanislav Grof brought or gave to the world, I would say, is the specific context. We are working with those potentialities as rhythm, bodywork, breathing. So there is this specific setting, and there is this map or this frame of understanding, which provides also ways how to integrate those experiences. Because that specific thing was interesting for me, or to me, because in the ashram, in my yogic practices, in my meditation, I experienced those things, those openings, those recalling of memories from somewhere, strong energies, some mystical experiences, but I didn't know what to do with it. It was like, oh, it's good to trip there. It's good to see myself and the world from the other perspective, but but then after the session ends, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to live it. I don't know how to live my life with those experiences around or inside me, and how to go to work the other day. So I think the setting and the integration part of Stanislav Grof's work is the most meaningful thing that for me that attracted me to his paradigm and way of working.
So it's really like how to make sense of these experiences and then actually use them in your daily life, or maybe integrate them in your worldview.
Yeah, and how to live them also in, let's say, safe environment, safe context. Because
What do you mean by that?
because sometimes those states of extended, let's say,
Awareness.
states can bring many difficulties, because you perceive your body differently, the energy differently. So, and the normal world does not work with this way of how we experience ourselves within the expanded state of consciousness. So it may be hard to somehow fill the gap between the two, the normal and the extended. So the safe setting helps you to slowly integrate, to slowly set what you experience in those states within your daily reality, your daily life, your normal self. Okay.
But if you do have a regular practice, some of those states come upon one spontaneously. So you could be out there in the world and all of a sudden something is happening because of an accumulation of whatever you've done before, and you have to deal with it. So is it that these settings give you a space to have the state?
Yeah, and also what you mentioned, it's good if you have the good context for those natural revelations, let's say. And the good context, I would say, is having maybe a good teacher who supervises you, the real guru or teacher who, now you are experiencing this, okay, continue, you have to work this or be careful with that. But as we mentioned before, the present context of the yoga trading world, there is this troublesome aspect of it that you can, those tastes and experiences can arise naturally, but you are not prepared for them. You are not trained how to deal with them.
Or even to digest the experience within the system. Like I had one friend, she went to India and a Baba gave her the state, but then he couldn't bring her down. And so she spent 3 months in this state. And I mean, she was literally, she looked like a deer in headlights for 3 months. And when she was still in India at the time, she would be traveling on the train and another Baba would see her and just, meaning, it's up, right? I can see. So I mean, it's one thing to get the energy rising. It's another thing to be able to support the person and bring them into a state of function.
And not only the, let's say, the cities and the energy states or the Kundalini awakenings, but also a big risk for me of this, let's say, experiencing without a good background and good context is also the ego clinging, the opposite that you seek in the yoga, right? The sense that I am enlightened now. I've experienced something, wow, supernatural, or it have to be so that I am at the stage of Maharishis. So now I will tell you how the world works, right?
Yeah. I've
I
been
call
there.
it India syndrome because you see many students who go to Rishikesh for 3 weeks and they come back enlightened, all dressed up in white and saying, "Oh, namaste, this is how reality works." So, yeah,
Especially early on.
yeah, sure.
Especially early on. That's right. Um, Also, his idea of the birth experience. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, what Grof brought to the, let's say, older paradigm of psychology is the new cartography of the psyche, which means that he added some other dimensions to the basic one, which we call biographical or personal. This is the story or the timeline of our life, which starts from the birth and it ends with the physical death, right? Growth added to more dimensions to the, let's say, mandala of our existence. And the first one is called perinatal, and it regards the experiences we have during the pregnancy, when we are within the body of our mother, and during the birth process, how the birth experiences, how it is imprinted in our consciousness and within our body and energy. So the period before birth, during the birth, and a short period after that. Because when we come to this world, it's huge, right? There's first this primordial connection, this oneness we can experience in a good way or even in a bad way. If the pregnancy or the way our mother receives us isn't good, it can be dramatic, this first experience of the first unity. But then we experience this moment of separation, right? And it can be pretty overwhelming. Also, if we think now it's slowly changing, I believe, in the world, but if we think about how the child delivery is conventionally
Handled.
handled in the hospital. I don't know, in the UK it may be better than here, but it's very medical. It's really full of outer interventions and making the process happen in some manner, which is sometimes very far from the natural way of or character of the process itself. So yeah, so there was this perinatal layer added to the mandala, together with the biographical, and then the transpersonal layer or the spiritual layer, the experience we all have, no matter if we are humans or other species, or and it's very close to tantric, yogic, shamanic ways of seeing the complexity of the existence. So growth perspective is it's not this anthropocentric thing where we think that the way we see something is the way the things are. So it's pretty inspirational and pretty close. And for me, it's nice to see the similarities between his paradigm and let's say the philosophy of the ancient teachings, the native ways of seeing the reality in its complexity.
Yes, I mean, Kashmiri Shaivism for me it's the same. It's that individual and the universal and changing the perspective. But this birth experience, is it that he says that whatever our birth experience, it can trigger something later? Is that what he's saying?
Sure. Well, it's somehow close to the idea of karmic influences. There is this condition becoming, right? Something happens and it patterns the way we live something or we experience something later. It's not like predestination we were born in some way, so it means that the whole life will looks like this. It's not like that, but certain conditions, certain conditionings within ourselves, the pattern of energies, the way we respond to the world, the way we respond to difficulty, how we are self-concerned, self-conscious. For growth, the roots are in the birth process or within the birth process. Not only because there's this transpersonal and spiritual layer also, but the two or the three parts of the mandala, the biographical, transpersonal, and perinatal, are pretty interconnected.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
I can make my own example to make it more concrete. When I was born to this world, it was in a way that the water broke. The water of my mother broke the day and something before I was born. So what I can recall now with my holotropic experiences and the understanding of the process, because I have of the birth process, because I have 3 kids, is the thing that I was trying to get out, but I didn't felt supported for it because my mother felt pretty weak, nothing was happening, no contractions there. So I was trying to go out to do something with no support. So I resigned after some time. The day after the water broke and my mother came to hospital, they were trying to push me out as soon as possible. So another experience came after this. Okay, I'm just not doing anything. I'm staying here. Let's see. There was this extreme pressure for me to get out. And I didn't know how to respond because no contractions, no support there. And then the opposite extreme came. So my mother was given superficial high dosages of superficial oxytocin, which pushes you away and kind of dramatic way. So, and I was born without any further troubles, but then in my life, I re-experienced this primordial, let's say, experience of trying a lot, then becoming depressed because the environment around me is not reacting to my aims, to my tries, right? Getting depressed, disconnecting me, not feeling my body, not feeling my emotions, just resigning. So it's over. I want to go out. And this is important. This is interesting. I want to go out. What I mean by that, in the birth canal, it was maybe like I wanted to go back to the first stage, being one with my mother, being one with my universe, because there it was everything okay. I experienced the same thing. When I was 13, I was depressed, I was having this anorexia, and I was studying Upanishads, and I wanted to transcend this suffering, okay? I wanted to go back to the source by denying my body, by denying my emotions. And then the things went dramatic, right? Again. And I didn't know how to respond to this drama. When my first son was born, he was born with a emergency cesarean, with the same patterns of the childbirth. I was trying, no contractions, no opening, my son suffocating there. Then the doctors had to take him out. At the same stage, I was stuck myself within my process. And what's interesting, when I started to work on my own birth trauma, thanks to holotropic breathing, and I
your second one,
to the other stage, which I didn't experience well when I was born, and where I re-traumatized myself with my son into my first delivery. Something changed there.
You broke the blueprint.
Yeah. And I also I could see the manifestation of this breaking out the blueprint, as you said, in my normal life, in my relationships, in my work, in my creativity. There was still this pattern coming back, trying, resigning, depressed, then big drama, and again.
It's like the train track
Yeah,
was rubbed out,
yeah,
so the groove was no longer
yeah,
there.
yeah,
It's fantastic. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And I'm not saying it's only about the childbirth experience and the perinatal layer, not at all, but it's meaningful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I know that you've written 5 books, and unfortunately, they're all in Czech. I do look forward to the day when they are translated. At least your last one, Chakra Mandala, which I think is quite interesting. And also, thank you for translating the chapter headings for me. It was very useful. And there were a few that I was very, very interested in. One was the shadow is not the same as the darkness. Perhaps you can give us a little bit about what that chapter
Yeah,
means to you.
yeah, it means a lot to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it somehow reflects the change within my own attitude, also not only to myself but to the world, to my yoga practice, to the understanding how all these things come together. Because when I was young and when I started to question the nature of reality and the suffering, and I tried to understand myself, I was thinking I have to transcend what's painful. I have to transcend it, and what I meant by that at that time was like putting the obstacles away, right? What's bad, you have to transcend the bad. But I was denying the bad. I was not understanding it. I was trying to overcome it in the way of closing my eyes and imagining my good nature full of light and good essence, and I know the body, I know the mind, I am the Atman Brahma, and everything.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then when I was studying with my Brahmanic teacher, he was, in a sense, supporting me in my this attitude towards the problematic. Oh, that's bad. That's emotions. It's just temporary. Just drop it. Let it go. And it was working only for some time because. You mentioned Carl Gustav Jung. He said, or he stated that what you put in your shadow consciously and unconsciously grows in time. It grows. It takes the energy. It wants the energy. It's the same thing with the tamas, right? If you try to deny it, it grows. It takes you the energy slowly and secretly. So this call to face not only my shadow, but also to understand also the shadow of yoga teachings. Was hidden, why it's something neglected somewhere, why it's something seen higher than something other, was important to me. So yeah, for me the shadow is simply something we don't want or we are not able to face yet. And it's not only the negative, the darkness, but also things we don't know how to deal with, just simply like that. So without those neglected parts of ourselves, the whole picture is not complete.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes me think of it's us that puts the idea of good or bad on it. And while it's neither, it means that ratio of all those experiences, once they're sort of at an equal ratio with no good or bad, then I think that's wholeness.
Yeah, sure. I was always suspicious in the Brahmanic teachings, like how can we talk about unity with putting some parts out of it, right?
Throwing,
It was
yeah.
like really strange, huh? So that was also very that was also maybe a first hint for me of my later tantric interest or
Yeah.
the let's say, the twist in my seeking, because I was still lacking the inclusiveness of this teaching of unity. Because how there can be wholeness with some parts put it away.
I mean, even in that sentence, you've just said it, like the inclusivity, the thing about Tantra is that there is no, you can be any caste, you can be male, female, it didn't matter. You were included or accepted. And, you know, people look at Tantra as not part of Hinduism, but there's a lot of Tantra in Hinduism. And it was just that the Brahmanical side of things was the popular one.
Sure.
Let's not confuse Tantra with tantric sex.
Sure.
Well, look, let's just come out a little bit and talk about how, before we finish, talk about how you manage to, which I see that you do, manage to sustain your practice and your family.
It's everyday quest, you know. I don't know if I've managed, but I'm managing. I'm still in the process, right? And maybe this is the only secret ingredient I have. Not forgetting me being in the process, because the kids are perfect teachers for this, because one day you set your small world, you have this illusion of having good control on the things happening inside and around you, and the other day it's upside down totally. It's so, well, yeah, the idea of still being in the process is helping me a lot. The compassion, principle of compassion is helping me a lot towards myself, because I have to admit that I am the type who always tries to be perfect. That's it. The anorexia is over, but this software of trying the best all the time.
The root is still there.
It's still there, of course.
Okay.
I came with it into this life to experience it and experiment with it in a good way, I think. So trying not to push myself into being a good yogi, being a good mother, not failing here, not failing there, and trying to live everything at the same moment with a good attitude toward myself. It's a big lecture. So I'm managing somehow. I don't have magical recipes or good tips or what to do or not to do. What I'm trying not to do is I'm trying not to idealize the things, nor the motherhood, nor the yoga practice with kids. I am trying to deal what I have here every day. So, you know, it's always this balance in between letting go and trying, having the discipline and not grasping, not pushing. So I do my best. Sometimes I could do less. Sometimes I could do more. It's always like that.
Well, Barbara, here's to the process.
Sure.
So thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want to know more about Barbara, you can find out more in the details below. I will put all those things there for you. And if you speak Czech, I'll put her books in there, or at least where you can find those books. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, and stay tuned for more of the same sort of thing. Bye for now.
Thank you.